Hey, what's up, friend? You are you interested in lack of skill? Yeah. Or maybe some suck. I'm just a new guy for the love of game. We don't go, I know it's bad. Times have changed, but not my mad. Don't you know that games are my thing? Yeah, I know it's getting real late. Come on, look at me. I even do storytelling. Also podcasts on great game subjects. Okay, yeah, I'm not a Markiplier or a PewDiePie. But hey, that's what makes me so unique, right? Right? Right?
Hello, welcome to another episode of the Niko Show. And guess what's back, everybody? It's the soundboard, yippee! Guy, yay! Hello! Okay, thank you for coming to the Niko Show. I'm just kidding. Okay, hey everybody, this is the Niko Show. How are ya? Welcome to the, what I like to call the echo empty chamber. I mean, it's full of echoes, but it's also empty because not many people are watching the Niko Show on YouTube. But you know what? We still got a job to do, and we got to do it well. But this isn't the only place where you can visit and watch the Niko Show. You can also check it out on Spotify as well. It's just another way of listening to it. And I post these episodes all over different social media platforms. So if you're not informed, well, check out those links down below and you will be. Or if you find this video just so happens to stumble upon the embarrassment, which is me, I appreciate it. So today we are talking about retro versus modern video games, or retro gaming versus modern gaming. And I wanted to do this one because I think it's good to know the difference, because nowadays it's very, very, very black and white type of, versus one-on-one type of thing. Maybe back in the day it used to be, well, a little bit of both. But as time goes on, we start to realize that gaming is not what it used to be back in the day. Not just by technology's sake or how we saw it as kids growing up and compared today, just the values of video game making in general has changed. Modern gaming is probably, if not the worst I've ever seen it ever. And we'll go into what I think modern gaming is, and then retro gaming myself, my opinions and everything. But also we will learn in a very, very boring manner on what the difference of the two are, because I have this article in the background just for foundational sake, so we can actually have an idea where I'm coming from and why I'm doing it. And if it doesn't have anything about that, then I'm sorry. I did read it a little bit, and I don't think it'll touch every nook and cranny, but if you don't know the difference by the end of this, then, well, I'm going to do my best to help out, by the end of reading this. So, before we get started, hey everybody, I'm NikoTheLegend. If you like what you see today, feel free to subscribe to the NikoTheLegend channel and check out all the links below where you can find me. I'm pretty much everywhere, and I hope you're an audio listener as well, because Spotify has made it easier than ever to my voice to be like a Dova King from Skyrim or something. I harmonize my wonderful voice, because we all know I have like the best voice, right? No?
Retard alert! Retard alert, class!
A little bit? Nah, okay. Alright, anyway. So, no simple news or weird news right now. I wanted to just tackle this article because it's going to be a short one today. I hope people don't mind that, but it's, time constraints have been happening lately, so I can only talk for so long. But one last shameless plug. Hey, do you miss the good old days of your casual, usual, well, I guess not so casual, let's play commentary for video games where you have your two favorite YouTube people making jokes, spilling commentary, and playing your favorite games, and just having a blast, laughing your ass off? Kind of like Gang Grumps was back in the day during the golden era and even the silver era of, of Danny and Aaron, before it was JonTron and Aaron, or John and Aaron. Well, I got good news for you. Let's Plop is that gaming channel that's going to bring that back. The only difference is with Let's Plop is that hey, it's never just me by myself. It's always with a special guest, and we don't know who's going to be on the channel with me. It could be A, B, C, D, E, F, whatever, right? It could go down the whole alphabet. So if you missed that classical interpretation of what a, I don't know, commentary Let's Play channel is all about with your two favorite people, check out Let's Plop, because that is what I intended for it to be. And listen, if you want to check it out, great. Right now, currently, as this goes up, we are playing Dino Crisis, TMNT Fighters one-off is going up, and then Kirby's Superstar is the next series that's coming up. So we've done like a half a dozen games so far, because it does take a while for these series to go up. But anyway, if you got the time, check it out. That's Let's Plop, old school Let's Play commentary brought back to light. No more silly stream highlights or long fucking Twitch plays posted on people's YouTube, where it's just lazy editing, where all they do is just record and that's it. Record and that's it. No jump cuts, no special introductions, nothing. It's just boom, just whatever. We don't do that anymore. Anyway, thanks. That's Let's Plop. So, like I said, we're talking about retro gaming versus modern gaming. So I hope you guys are ready. Are you ready? Are you ready? I need to hear it. We'll let Goku finish it off.
Is to go even further beyond.
Okay. I am. Okay. So, I think, like I said before, touched a little bit on it. I think it's a good idea for us to just establish the difference between retro and modern gaming. And, you know, there are those people that only play retro gaming to this day. And I understand why, and it's a very good reason why they do it. And there are the people that play just modern games because they like to, you know, out with the old, in with the new. And then, of course, you get people like me that are kind of in the middle. But deep down in my heart, if I had a choice between modern gaming and retro gaming, it'll be retro gaming 100% of the time. If I had to lose the last 10 years of gaming, of what the gaming industry has offered me, I don't care. It's fine. It's 2022, so I still get to play Skyrim. So we lucked out. Trust me, I would have been okay with that, honestly. Video games have been around for a very long time. There's been many greats that have come out over the years. And there still are to this day. It's just, maybe it's like, oh, Niko, modern gaming, what is that to you? Well, I guess you could say the main modern gaming I'm talking about are the AAA studios that we get to see, or you know, these big high production games that have been coming out. And I get it, video games get more expensive over the years and it requires more people, blah 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 blah. I get it, details, schmeetails, right? But it still doesn't give you an excuse to make a shitty game and release it and disappoint your audience and lie to your audience about every little thing. Now, I might bring up certain examples, the really easy go-to, like Star Wars Battlefront 2, Cyberpunk 2077, Call of Duty, for crying out loud, you know, Battlefield 2040, Halo Infinite, like the ones that really disappointed and let people down. The long-running franchises that most of them have just turned to complete schlock and are just simple cash grabs. So I might bring those up. I know there's other ones that are not so mainstream and popular that have, you know, series have gone downhill. I understand that, but let's just keep it simple. I'm not here to just, you know, show off my knowledge of what is and what's not. That's not what I'm here to do. Anyway, I hope you're ready for the this game's mansplaining version of what retro versus modern gaming is, and then as we go down, as we read together and learn together, afterwards, I will go into my own subjective opinion and how I see retro gaming, why I like it, and why modern gaming, you know, if I like it, pros and cons of each, pretty much, okay? So, let's get right into it, folks. This is retro versus modern video games, or retro gaming versus modern gaming. Modern gaming. You know, whenever I say modern gaming, I think of Act-Man, because he pretty much nailed it real hard. I'm sure it's a gift somewhere. So, the first video games were made available to consumers in 1971. The first ones released were Computer Space and Pong in 1971 and 1972, respectively. You know what they say, know your history, so this is important. They were later followed in 1972. I understand. A history lesson is never entertaining, so just bear with me. by the home console Magnavox Odyssey. Since then, the video game industry has seen tremendous growth in the games produced. Currently, there are games of every kind available to cover all kinds of consumers. You can get free bingo games online alongside your favorite classics. What a weird thing to put. Modern video games are much more complex and have provided players with a whole range of options. This has made modern video games even more exciting for the consumer. With the release of the first home console, Atari Pong, a video game saw a rise in popularity. However, this also led to an increase in the number of video games released and user feedback on the ways that these games should be played. In contrast to modern video games, retro video games have a limited number of options and are designed to fit with a particular genre. This allows for players to enjoy a more nostalgic experience. And I know, nostalgia has to do with some of it, but to me, not a whole lot. If a game is good, it's good. And if it's aged well, like fine wine, then there we go. Each game is built according to a set of design rules specific for each game genre. The type of game can be classified as either arcade or at least computer or cartridge based. Arcade games were typically developed and manufactured by a single manufacturer, while cartridge-based games were developed by a single company but distributed and sold through multiple retailers. Okay, the difference between retro and modern video games can be classified broadly into, broadly is the key word here, just bear with me folks, we're just building a foundation here. Number one, aesthetics. Retro games by definition are predominantly creative in nature as opposed to being primarily functional or recreational. It can be argued that most modern video games is best described as recreation or functional, while retro games remain creative in nature without being primarily interactive or interactive. Well, the tool set back in the day for video games was very, very limited, so developers had to really use their noggin on how to make their experiences different than other stuff, because everybody had pretty much the same amount of tool sets. Was not as open as a space. Technology has only come so far around that time. Compared to today, shit, you can just use anybody's fucking video game engine, royalties or not royalties, like the Unreal engine, Crytek engine, the Creative engine. It's like, fuck, the Unity engine, it doesn't even matter anymore. That sandbox tool set is crazy. This is due to the fact that most modern video games are programmed with the goal of providing an addictive experience which engages the player on a number of different levels, such as entertainment, learning, desire, and achievement features, where retro refers to an older form of entertainment. Yeah, the thing is, both genres can do that. I don't know why it's black and white on that part of what it just said. All that applies to retro gaming back in the day, okay? And it still does. If you played the old games when you were a kid growing up, that feeling of nostalgia, it's not going to really dominate the whole thing. Okay, I only say nostalgia dominates it all. It's when the game actually hasn't aged well, and it's really not that great of a game. But if you get games like Mega Man X or Ocarina of Time and you're playing it in this day and age, those games will still give you a great time. Shit, list any old school fighting game like Tekken, Street Fighter, shit, man, or Mortal Kombat 2 or 3. Those games will still give you hours of addictive time. They're still great. So that's aesthetics. So, computer systems. Since the beginning of the video game industry, there has been a wide variety of video game types. The history of this technology is constantly evolving, and innovative changes are always being made to push the industry forward. There have been a number of different innovations that are changing the way that people play games, and these include 3D graphics, motion control, network access, and online multiplayer gaming services. Changes such as these have added new ways to play video games and use different technologies to offer a unique gaming experience to the players. The history of gaming consoles is exuberantly interwoven with the history of video games. Arcade games were some of the earliest examples of interactive media. Oh, and I miss arcade games, man. They're still great. And while there were many forms of entertainment before, they were limited to passive experiences like theater or books. But that's what made it into an adventure, and that's what made it special. Besides burning all your quarters. But you know what? Mom and Dad didn't give a shit. With arcade games, the machine offered players an experience that was more directly engaging than what was possible before. The first console was released in the 1970s. It allowed players to play the games at home instead of going to the arcade machine. This meant they could play more often and on their own schedule. So, next one, graphics and interface. Now, this is one of the biggest things here. Modern gaming systems usually support graphical displays, which provide a variety of features such as 3D graphics, pseudo 3D graphics, animations, and other visuals. On the other hand, retro games are usually played on consoles which have limited features including non-graphical game options, although some retro consoles also had graphical capabilities. In addition to having limited graphical displays, many older video games do not support sound. This includes music with each level being represented through sound effects. Non-playable characters and NPCs in the game may have an audio clip in order to create an extra level of realism for the players. Hey, guess what? Back in the day, that's all that mattered. And guess what? To this day, it still works, by the way, folks. I don't know how far back they're going. If they're going to like Pong days, that's different, okay? But I think they are, because Pong just had no music. It was just sound effects. Any like Pitfall or shit, just anything on the old Atari console will have just sound bites. But that was fine. People didn't care about that. They just were just having a good time. That's all that mattered. With increasing technology, many of retro video games were unable to compete with modern video games as their style and graphics became dated by the 1990s. That's a very pompous statement there. That is the mainstream view of it, because I bet you anything, majority of the games that came out in the 90s look 10 times better than what modern gaming has offered us today. Have you seen Halo Infinite? Have you seen Battlefield 2042? Yeah, those games are not that great. They're pretty ugly. Have you seen Elden Ring? Yeah, bland fantasy at best. But I guess they're just talking about just pure graphics. They're not talking about art style or just, aesthetics or what creative style of what the games used to offer. And retro games still have it made with that. So, however, even with the advancement in technology, there are still some game genres that have not evolved much from their roots. That's good. Know thy roots. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. These include first-person shoot-'em-ups, text adventures, and real-time strategies. Yeah, because guess what? They still work, and people miss those. That's great. Indie developers are the ones that know what I mean. Hardware. This is the next subject. The hardware that a game is played on is another factor in determining whether it will be considered a retro game. This includes the type of hardware and the combined speed of both the processor and the graphics. Factors such as these are important in determining compatibility. Older games will generally have slower processors but are well received because of their increase in immersion. Listen, the games didn't take that long to load back in the day, especially in the 90s or even the 2000s, okay? Sure, there were probably a pocket full of games that did take forever to load, but you know what? That was fine, because we know the game was just going to be great. But if you play any cartridge game, like the SNES, the N64, the original Nintendo, I mean, that stuff loaded like in an instant, and it was not a problem. PlayStation consoles back in the day, PS1, PS2, fuck man, like the Dreamcast, that stuff did not take that long to load, okay? We're still doing well. Nowadays, some games take way too long. Because they're not optimized, game companies. Many retro games can be only run on specific consoles. Some games, however, can be played on newer systems that have comparable compatibilities. Well, yeah, it's porting different games to different consoles. Also, re-releases for games. Yeah, you have an opportunity to do that, and sometimes they do add different ways to run it. I get that. That's fine. Okay, that was it for that. Gameplay. Many games from the 1980s featured the same level of complexity and maturity as modern games, despite being created decades prior. Interesting, right? Games such as Pac-Man followed a very simple path with clear goals and objectives, while games such as Doom 2 allow players to focus on military strategy rather than simply running around in order to complete the level objectives. Although both require a great deal of skill and dexterity with their controls, such as jumping, video games generate quite a bit of nostalgia for many players across the globe, which has led many older platforms to be given support by modern game consoles. This refers to the characteristics of the gameplay itself. Games that have been retrofitted with modern features are no longer considered to be retro. I don't know about that. Look, to its core, it's still a retro game. But just because you added a few bells and whistles, like, I don't know, a different coat of paint or a better paint job, whatever you want to call it, it's still a retro game, okay? Unless it was completely reworked and remade, then it's not retro. but that original version is still, so that's always good. Retro games often feature a single-player mode, much like more recent games do today. Retro games also have more involvement with the player, and that some games will require the player to actually be in front of the machine to complete a level or task. Okay, last thing, and then we can go into the bickering. Input devices and accessories. Video game controllers have changed over time. The most popular controllers are the gamepad and the joystick, although they are not limited to just these two. Video game mouses are also common in retro games, although they often have a lower number of buttons than modern mice do. Have we seen the Atari joystick controller? Yeah. In addition to these two devices, some systems have supported other input devices such as joysticks, light guns, and dance pads. In 2007, Nintendo introduced the Wii Remote for support with first-person video games, including Super Mario Galaxy and FIFA Football series. Those are not really first person. You should have just said shooter games. Anyway, the gamepad is now the mostly used controller for FPSs. Yeah, weird. However, some developers may still use a joystick or mouse as well. Well, duh. Okay, so that's pretty much the gist of it there, folks. Okay, how are we doing on time? Okay, good. That is the boring, bland explanation of retro versus modern gaming. So now we have an idea of the technical aspect. I know, not very exciting. We always want to talk about the not so technical side of things. We want to talk about our opinions and how we feel about this. Listen, as I stated before, retro gaming I will always hold deeply in my heart, and I still will argue to this day that they are more entertaining than modern gaming. Now, why do I say that? Like I said, you don't have to agree with me on any of this. This is just how I see it, and maybe it may not be the best explanation, but I hope it does the job nonetheless, whatever, sloppy or not. So, when I think of modern video games to this day, I think of them as just cash grabs. AAA studios will do that all the time, and because they are yearly or every other yearly releases, and the games look exactly the same. They don't do anything new, and in fact, they're more broken than the previous version, and it's the same old song and dance, and it's a vicious cycle. So I listed prime examples of nonsensical bullshit AAA or modern games that have come out in recent times, like the last 3 Call of Duty games. I don't include Warzone, but I'm talking about Cold War. I'm talking about Vanguard. I'm talking about Modern Warfare 2019. Those games came. Look, I understand Call of Duty always does this, okay? Always yearly releases. I get it, okay? We're not fucking talking about that entirely. I'm talking about the fact that when you load up a Call of Duty game from either 3 of these games are all combined under one platform pretty much, because when you load up the main menu, 1, 2, 3, 4. The 4th one is Call of Duty Warzone. I don't count that as its own. Well, I guess it is, but I'm just counting the 3. They're all together in the same menu. They use the exact same HUD. It pretty much is just a carbon copy of one another. The only thing that's different is that a different company makes each one of them, so the gameplay feel will be slightly different, whatever, different philosophies attuned to it, okay? But overall, these games, modern gaming, Activision, Blizzard does a great job of making you feel like you're missing out on the other experience, even though one is worse than the other. I'm not here to talk about which Call of Duty is better, but if you played them, you know exactly what I mean. Why am I playing Call of Duty Black Ops Cold War and having a Call of Duty Vanguard Battle Pass progression happening when I'm not even playing that fucking game? See what I mean? Modern gaming does that. They try to do this whole, like, making you feel like you're left out of the experience because you're not up to date with the latest Call of Duty, with the latest cash grab, the latest modern shooter. So here we go. You can't take away this Battle Pass progression because it's implemented. It's a staple in the game, even though you're not even playing the right Call of Duty for it. So that's just one example of modern gaming at its lowest to me. As much as I enjoy playing Call of Duty Black Ops Cold War, besides snipers are a piece of shit in that. People who use snipers only in that game are assholes. Because it's so easy, just one shot, no matter what you do to hit somebody, insta-kill, and then hitting someone with a sniper point blank or far away is so easy. I see it all the time on the kill cams. Anyway, I digress. So that's just one example. What's another example of a crappy modern gaming experience? Star Wars Battlefront 2. It's EA. EA Star Wars has been a blight on the galaxy with Battlefront 1 and Battlefront 2. Battlefront 2 took the cream of the crop because they implemented pay-to-win scenarios and gambling scenarios with loot boxes and everything. And that was a huge deal. Huge deal. And then eventually they took that out, but the damage was already done. It was a part of the gameplay's core narrative, you know, and how it was designed. So the game could still use improvements, but you'd have to just make a brand new game. But the fact that EA thought they could get away with this pay-to-win crap, and they made it literally pay-to-win, is horribly corrupt bullshit, the darkest I've ever seen of modern gaming for the most part, and it just upsets me and everybody else who has tried to give the game an experience, and they get bullshitted by people who spend $1,000, $100, $5 just to make sure they don't lose a match, because God forbid these nerds lose a fucking match in a video game. Oh my goodness. So pay to win, not cool, not exciting. What's another example of modern video games? All these examples add up to the pot of modern video games, why I don't like it. Elden Ring. I don't care if the game sold over 12, 13, 14 million copies. Elden Ring is a prime example of getting too complacent. This is a company from software, as much as I love them, Bandai Namco, they don't care. They want to make money too. They are greedy. They are also another greedy corporation, because when you play Elden Ring, they still use the same online functionality, the same online network code since, I don't know, fucking Dark Souls 1. You guys can fact check me on that. But it's been a long time. It's old, broken, easily hackable, and it's so hackable that every game before Elden Ring that came out, on PC especially, you cannot play online, and they're just now working on it. And then also, guess what? Online functionality, besides that being crappy, disconnects, network capabilities. The game's not well optimized, so a lot of PC rigs still can't even play it. Game's crashing. And then, last but not least, is optimization issues. And that's one of the biggest things about modern video games is optimization. Look, I understand back in the day in retro gaming, games had frame rate drops because there was only so many character models or whatever, pixel models that you can have on a screen. But it didn't happen all the time. Like these games back in the day, they either play 30 frames solid or 60 frames solid. Okay? There was only bits and pieces that were really bad. But it didn't deter you from the entire experience. Nowadays, games are so unplayable that you have to wait literally a year to maybe give it a shot. Cyberpunk 2077, Halo Infinite, Battlefield 2042. Battlefield 2042 and Halo Infinite are prime examples of pieces of shit corporations taking advantage of the populace and not giving a fuck about the player's experience. It's all about releasing a game that's not even close to being half-baked. It's just still defrosting. So gamers like you and I have to suffer from AAA modern gaming bullshit, and that's not cool. That's not cool. Now, you can consider AAA modern video games as it's in its own bracket, okay? But I'm just listing you prime examples of what other game companies have done. Doesn't necessarily have to be AAA, but these are examples that can that are definitely well accounted for indie games, early access games, games that have been, I don't know, they're just haven't released it, like I said, early access, and they're just taking advantage of people's money, kickstarting, all this crap. Modern gaming to me is a pile of shit. And also, the main thing that's different about modern video games and retro gaming back in the day is that retro gaming to me was more high risk, high reward. You had to just be not enthused. You had to be invited to like the game, because many people like you and I, growing up as a kid, I was always I played the NES, I played the Super Nintendo, the N64. So I'm gonna stick with that era, just to keep things simple. I just had to go in from what my two older brothers showed me, what my friends showed me, what the video game rental stores had to show me. It's like going into a bookstore when you go into a video game rental store, whatever. You judge a book by its cover. You look at the back. What's the name of it? What does it look like? What's the series, right? Is it Final Fantasy? Is it Mickey Mouse? Is it, I don't know, Mortal Kombat? It doesn't matter. If it allured you, you wanted to try it out. And if it turns out that it was a pile of crap, it's a pile of crap. Okay? But guess what? We had that juicy curiosity. We don't have juicy curiosity with modern video games because technology nowadays doesn't bullshit around. Gamers, anybody who gets tricked by a developer these days on a video game they buy, and it turns out to be complete schlock, I'm sorry, but you're an idiot. You're really dumb when it comes to this. But if you don't know how to do your research and you go with blind optimism only, that can only get you so far. I've been lucky a couple times to not have buyer's remorse with blind optimism or impulse buys, okay? And don't care about the reviews. I'm just a big fan, right? Some people will do that, okay. But if you didn't do the research on your Halo Infinites, your Call of Duties, your Cyberpunk 2077s, so on and so forth, right? On any game that has released that's been half-baked or not even close, that's your fault. That is your fault, okay? That is your fault. Sorry. I had a phone call. I thought it was an emergency phone call. Okay, anyway. Sorry about that. Okay. I got a lot of calls, clientele. I'm a personal trainer. People just can't stop leaving me alone. Blah, blah. So, I've been talking about modern gaming. Retro gaming. Well, I've been talking about retro gaming. Okay, retro gaming. Like I said, when you were playing these games, okay, there was a mixed bag. Either the game was complete. Actually, I don't even know if half these games were complete. I honestly don't know. Because a lot of the times we never knew if a game was truly 100% complete. I don't know how much was cut out. I'm talking about retro gaming itself. I'm not entirely sure. But there were ones that really stood out. And some that you had to wait later on in life to learn to research this when the internet wasn't so brand spanking new, where we can actually do a little digging. Okay. So when I was playing games growing up, I didn't have a problem with renting a game and it turned out to be something I'm like, this is okay, but it's not the greatest. Like, for example, Clay Fighters. Like, that game just was so bombastically weird as a fighting game, as a shitty Street Fighter clone. But I was curious about it because it had a Frosty the Snowman as a fighter on the cover. I wanted to check it out. Turns out it wasn't that great. I was still more entertained by the stupidity of it. It was so bad that it was good in a way, the best of the worst. But that's okay. I mean, maybe I didn't get butthurt about it because my parents were paying for the rental fees. I don't know. Whatever, right? I'm still, user experience is still a thing. I'm still playing the game. I'm still wasting my time, okay? And, I was playing games like Mega Man, Zelda, Mario, of course, Street Fighter, Mortal Kombat, whatever, you name it, whatever beat 'em ups were around the time, Turtles in Time, it doesn't matter. I just knew that the game was fun right off the bat. There was no bullshit with retro games. It was plug and play. And if it was a game where you couldn't even play because the game was so bombastically hard, which that was a thing, stupid hard, or it was just not even that great of a game. It didn't even seem like a complete game. It was just released and it just absolutely destroyed. Because you get games like E.T. that cause a huge video game market crash. So that does happen, okay? That does happen, but I don't think anybody really enjoyed E.T. back in the day. If you did, let me know. I don't know. But it was all about, like I said, curiosity. It was high risk, high reward. Now, there were certain ways of looking up retro gaming at the time, back in the 90s and 2000s, or during the time. It was video game magazines, okay? It was Electronic Gaming Monthly, Game Pro. That was the things that, that we had to use to do a little research to see what games were coming out. I didn't really have that much knowledge. My brothers had Electronic Gaming Monthly, but I didn't really look that far into it. But those magazines were so awesome, though, when they were coming out. They were so awesome. They were like works of art when you open them. Like, some of them were like 500 pages, like massive books, 300 to 500 pages. It was crazy. Crazy. And then also game demos, right? Game demos were a hell of a thing back in, they still do demos. But I was only playing demos just to see how this game was because there was no other way of testing it out. There was no early access, okay? There was no availability of what games could offer to this day. Now, that could be considered as a pro or a con. I don't see it as a con. I just see it as, is this game going to be good or not? My way of early access playing, if this makes sense, it was renting the game. If I liked the game after renting it, I would either keep renting it, or eventually my parents would buy it for me, or as I got older, I would save and buy it myself. Listen, no joke, I saved up my entire lunch money 4th and 5th grade to get Pokemon Stadium, because I knew I wanted that game right from the get-go, okay? I played it a little bit at the Walmart, because remember those Walmart used to offer where you used to play games. Like I said, the availability back in the day to test out these games was a hell of a thing. Game developers weren't frightened about that. They weren't scared of people to try out their new games. They weren't scared of the mass hysteria, the mass opinions of what the audience had to say about it, because this was all they had. Nowadays, modern gaming is so sneaky, so conniving about this bullshit, so greedy, that they don't care about offering different ways of playing it. It's either you pay full price, and the game stayed full price for a long time, or you don't get to play it. Fuck you. You get the 2 middle fingers, right? Back in the day, Electronic Gaming Monthly, Xbox Monthly, PlayStation Monthly, Nintendo Power, whatever. Those, go to fucking Pizza Hut for crying out loud, or Domino's, I can't remember. They would give you demos. They would show you arcade cabinets in Pizza Hut or in Chuck E. Cheese's or something like that, or McDonald's, for crying out loud. Back in the 2000s even, I would go to McDonald's nearby. When I first moved to Florida, there was McDonald's real close by. I used to walk there with my friends just to play on the N64 and the Playhouse too, because it was a pretty cool Playhouse. But anyway, they had Mario Party and Mario Kart 4 and N64 consoles just it's stationed there. Like, what the fuck? You won't find that anymore. The only place you'll ever find where you can play games, like standing up to test out what's coming out, is the fucking GameStop. At least from what I've seen lately. I know there's David Buster's. I know Chuck E. Cheese's still exists. I know there's arcade joints, internet cafes. It's not the same to me. Okay? It's not the same. There's too much nowadays that is readily available, which I'm actually happy about because I am at least intelligent enough, old enough to know the red flags, the pros and cons of these games coming out. And people, it's so oversaturated on reviews and opinions about this stuff. It's insane. Back in the day, it's literally your opinion. You're going in with blind optimism, with the sheer amount of joy that you hope that you'll get from the game and come out of it. And that's how it was. And like this article mentioned before, the technology wasn't there entirely for retro gaming. Good, because that means people couldn't be lazy. They had to really make a product to appease the shareholders and investors on making a great fucking game. Okay, that's what it was all about. Nowadays, investors don't care about quality. They care about quantity. They care about the stock prices, the investors, the shareholders, the dividends, blah blah blah. Activision, EA. Looking at you, Ubisoft, a prime example of how to not optimize a fucking game and keep franchises running for too long, but you can say that about any company. I've actually done an episode on video game franchises must die. I think it's great. I think majority of these gaming franchises should stop. Modern gaming should just kill off those IPs because they've done it for so long and invent new stuff and invent a new era of modern gaming, one where we can all enjoy and remind us of the glory days of growing up with these games, playing them, enjoying them, and no bullshit. No bullshit. No bullshit. The time and effort, the love and joy that retro gaming had on the world, when we were playing when they grew up, was great. And it was always shame on you if you made a game and it was not good. Now, sometimes it's not good because it just didn't translate well. It looked better it sounded better in theory and on paper. That happens a lot. But if you were an old school gaming company developer and you made the game shit on purpose because you're too lazy or you just didn't care, simple cash grab, well, fuck you. I'm sure those demons they definitely live on to this day. Okay, old habits die hard. So some game developers are seeing the bigger picture of what not to do with games, with cash grabs and stuff. Sometimes they do learn their lesson, but some of them really just don't care. So I don't know if I tackled enough on this subject, but that's all I want to talk about today before I keep beating a dead horse. Just listen, know the difference of retro versus modern gaming. People will have, either they like modern games more, because, you get to have more modernized experience. Things are more accessible. You get the online functionality and stuff like that. You get to play with more of your friends online in case you don't have any more friends online in real life because you're too busy playing with people you never met. The whole local co-op experience for retro gaming was just something you'll never be able to beat. Online gaming with games nowadays for modern video games, sorry, that's a bit of a mouthful, will never, ever top System Link, LANing, and couch gaming. It will never, ever usurp it. Deep down, people will always enjoy playing with their friends or people that they trust in the same room and just having a blast, okay? Counter-Strike LAN parties, Halo LAN parties, Gears of War, couch co-op playing your favorite beat-em-ups, Mortal Kombat, your favorite fighting games, your favorite Mario games playing together. Doesn't matter, single player games, Mega Man, Final Fantasy, sharing the experience with somebody else is so much more important and more enjoyable than playing with randos online and hearing them spew the N-word everywhere and screaming at the top of their lungs over the mic, which I do on Let's Blob if you really want to see that. Not the N-word stuff, but the screaming at the top of my lungs stuff. Niko's going to get in trouble here. But anyway, folks, yeah. I'd rather have a game released and it's just 95% great, hey, or not at all. If the game releases and it's got to wait about 5 years for it to be to a playable state, like Halo Infinite or Battlefield 2042, fuck you guys, okay? that is a waste of your time. Stop playing those games. Stop giving them benefit of the doubt because you're just losing money and time. And that's something we don't have that luxury for very long in this world. So learn your lesson the first time. Okay? Shigeru Miyamoto said this. Great quote to leave off. A delayed game eventually becomes great, but an unfinished game is never good, or something like that. You can look that up. It's a great quote. That's pretty much modern gaming in a nutshell, but you could apply that to retro gaming as well, just as a whole under the umbrella of video games. So, folks, what did you think about the retro versus modern video game? I don't know if I did an argument, debate, doesn't matter. I was just talking out of my ass half the time, just spewing whatever came to mind. It's been fun. I like these creative exercises, so let me know what you think down in the comments below, what you enjoy more, and let me know what your pros and cons of retro and modern gaming are. Maybe they're not the same as mine. I enjoy both, right? There's great. I'm telling you, modern video games, I just list a simple bracket, mainly AAA games, okay? Gotta go with the simplest answer, Occam's Razor, all right? Okay? Going too far down the rabbit hole of details and technical games you never heard of, no one can really comprehend that well, unless you're truly in the know. So I got to go with the general mainstream information that people already know. So, folks, thank you so much. I've been your host, NikoTheLegend, also known as the well-mannered teenager, the snowflake, rambling idiot, and vigil. And guys, remember, do your research on this stuff. It's readily available. If you're ever unsure about a video game, do your research. If you want to go with high risk, high reward as it used to be, go in, spend the money, buy the game, pray to the gods that it's great right from the get-go. You can still do that. But just know, there are other ways of doing this so you don't waste your money. Okay? All right, take care, Pathfinders. Bye-bye. Oh, victory fanfare. What? Victory fanfare. What?